Just recently at a college reunion, one of my friends, he said, well, Lee, let me tell you something. I never studied the night before an exam, ever. The reason was I knew I couldn't remember it overnight. So every time I had an exam, I set the alarm for 4 in the morning. I studied hard from 4 o'clock in the morning until the test time, and by noon it was gone. So you say, why do kids lose their enthusiasm? Well, if it's just a joke, it's just a game, it's not really learning, it's just a joke. It's only to get the grade, it's not real learning. Then they say, I don't want to play that game.
I'd love to explore a challenge that you have had in your life, and you can go like right now all the way back to childhood, just some challenge that is worth mentioning that we might unpack and see how it might serve our listeners.
I'm going to talk about my challenge in the field of education. We know it's a struggle in many ways for the children to reach the standards we have in mind for them. And so the question is, why? First thing, I spent a lot of time on the why. But one of the most interesting things, and John Hattie, who is probably the best known educator at this time, has named my research the Jenkins curve, which is a surprise to me, but it's very simple. I asked 3,000 teachers in various seminars, what grade do you teach? And what percent of your kids love school? Simple, 2 questions. Well, here it is. Kindergarten teacher said 95% of their kids love school. It gets worse at every grade level. Down to grade 9, we're at 37%. It ticks up slightly in high school. So I have a good friend, high school dropout, made a lot of money, but dropped out of high school. And he said, well, the reason it went down in high school because they weren't counting people like me. We weren't there. That's why it went up a little bit. Then I asked further, okay, just people, think about the children, your children or your friends or you when you were a junior or senior in high school. What percent of the kids are as excited about learning as a junior and senior in high school as they once were in kindergarten? The answer is always fewer than 10%.
It's horrible. I mean, I always loved it. I was one of those that always loved it somehow, and it came from at home, just a love of learning. But
you're a rare person. I always get that answer, less than 10%. Sometimes they'll give me 1%, 8, sometimes 5, but I've never gotten higher than 10. And I know the teachers aren't doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. That's a given. Mm-hmm. I've never heard of a teacher yet, whether they're a good teacher or not, they don't write in their lesson plans who they want to discourage. So it's not on purpose. So the challenge is, what is it that's causing this? What is it that people inherited that they're transferring on to the next generation that's causing this pain? And it makes teaching so difficult because when you've got a majority of the kids in middle school and high school who don't want to be there, wow, that's tough. So research on, what is it that's causing this? I can give you 3. One is we give kids permission to forget. They learn in first grade through spelling or vocabulary. They don't have to learn anything. They just have to know it for Friday. They learn that in about 4 or 5 weeks. I'll tell you a story. A grandma has her first grade daughter for the weekend. She'd been in first grade for 5 weeks. She's dropped off at grandma's house with her backpack. Grandma's going through the backpack. She says, oh, honey, look what you got. You took a spelling test. Yes, Grandma. You only missed 2 words. What a great job you did, honey. Let's work on those 2 words. And what does sweet granddaughter say? No, Grandma, we're done with those words. Okay? Now, fast forward to college. Just recently, at a college reunion, one of my friends who knew kind of what I was saying, he said, well, Lee, let me tell you something. I never studied the night before an exam, ever. The reason was I knew I couldn't remember it overnight. So every time I had an exam, I set the alarm for 4 in the morning. I studied hard from 4 o'clock in the morning until the test time, and by noon it was gone. So you say, why do kids lose their enthusiasm? Well, if it's just a joke, it's just a game, it's not really learning, it's just a joke. It's only to get the grade, it's not real learning. then gradually they say, I don't want to play that game. So that's reason one. Reason two is bribery. We bribe the kids to do the work. And John Hattie, in his research, I mentioned his name earlier, he studied 250 influences upon children. There are only 4 that make it worse. One is retention. There's no evidence that holding a kid back, that they learn more, that they catch up because of that. And one is tangible rewards. Makes it worse. Why? Because now their whole focus is not on learning anymore. It's on getting the reward. The third one I'll mention is, and this is a key part of my work with schools and homeschool families, all of it, is we use data for harm instead of data for joy. The numbers that go on a paper, sometimes displayed on the wall to show who the winners and losers are. My How to Create a Perfect School book the foreword was by Jack Canfield. So both of them have written a foreword for me. And Jack said, it's an interview that's on my website, he said when he was in military school, after every exam, they posted the scores, the name, the score, the top score in the class, then the next score and the name, the next score and the name. He said, maybe the top 2 or 3 kids thought that was good, but the rest of us didn't care. So do we still do that? No, we do it fancier. We make a really fancy bulletin board. It still shows who the winners and losers are. And I've got the photographs from actual classrooms that is displayed on the wall with a token of some kind for every kid moving towards a target. And you see the winners and losers are the second you walk in the room. So when data is for joy, everything changes. The kids are begging for quizzes. Now here, let me say that again. Write it down. Kids beg for quizzes when data is done correctly. Why? Because they want to prove they're smarter today than they ever were before. A grade 5 teacher, Eastern Nebraska. It's 15 minutes before school's out. She told the kids they're going to take one of their quizzes. And then brand new custodians set the alarm off accidentally. And there they are on the playground and can't take their quiz. Fire alarm went off. So what's the attitude of the kids? You'd think they'd be saying, yay, we don't have to do this. No, they're mad. Because if data is for joy, they want to take a quiz. And they made the teacher promise that first thing tomorrow morning, they'd get their quiz. So if they're not begging for quizzes, the data is not helping. It's making that spiral of down, down, down on their enthusiasm get worse. You want it when kids get a paper back that the teacher scored. Instead of thinking, how many did I miss? You want them to think, did I do better than I've ever done before? We graph it so they get to see their growth all through the year, getting smarter and smarter and smarter throughout the whole year. And by the way, anybody that's involved in athletics knows this is not new. It's just new for teaching in the classroom. Coaches are always measuring to see if an athlete's doing better than they've done before. In fact, the coaches that know that in athletics, when they're teaching, don't know it. The same person. The other thing we do with data is we add up the total for the whole class. The only thing that goes on the wall is the total for the class. It's like a scoreboard.
Okay.
It's a team. All of us kids in this room are working together to see if we can do better than we've ever done.
The total, not everyone individually, not stack ranked, because that's only going to work with the people that are the top couple. People might find that pretty cool, but the rest of them, they don't care. That's not using data for joy.
I wish you could be in the classroom when they add up the total for the class and the student in the room, who everybody knows is struggling the most, jumps up and does a chest pump and says, it was me. I'm the one that put us over the top. My 3 questions right is why we have an all-time best, why we did better than we've ever done before. I did it. Now, we know that from athletics. If you're on the basketball team and you're not a good athlete, and the coach puts you in, and the other team fouls you because they know you're not very good, but you do make a free throw, and your team wins by 1, what do you think? It was me. I did it, right?
Yes.
That's the same in the classroom. It happens all the time when data is for joy instead of data for harm. Now, I don't blame the teachers. They don't know how to use data for joy. When they do, it works. The homeschool family I'm working with, our pastor, it's September. he brought two kids up on the platform with him.
Okay.
One was in middle school, one in elementary school. The elementary one was in the family that I'm helping to homeschool. He said to the middle school girl, "What are you most excited about for school starting again?" She said, "Seeing my friends." She said to the boy, "What are you most excited about with school starting again?" "Quizzes." Can you imagine? That's because they have a visual record that I'm getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and they love it. So that loss of enthusiasm, where it gets worse every grade level, and you get less than 10% who want to come to school to learn, there's three of the reasons why. There's more. Those three help get an understanding of the system that's causing that. And it's not a blame on the teachers and the educators. It's built in, and they don't know what to do about it. And so when things aren't working because the kids are unmotivated, then what do? We bribe them. And half of the kids in school, in high school and middle school, care about grades, so they accept the bribe. The other half don't care about grades, and the bribe does no good. You say, what's the biggest challenge? First challenge is figuring it out. And the second challenge is what we're doing today, figuring out ways to let people know there's a way to solve this problem.